And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Voices from the Grid. I'm Michael Lindebaum, and I'm being joined by one of my many co-hosts, the Red Ranger. The Red Ranger.
You're fabulous.
The Red Ranger. I'm just going to keep saying Red Ranger.
Fine. The fabulous Red Ranger, Sasha Kaplan. Although, ironically, right now, you're wearing a red shirt, and I'm wearing a blue tank top, so...
And aren't I supposed to be the Blue Ranger?
Yeah. So...
Here, hold on. Let's switch shirts real quick. Yeah.
I mean, I've got red on my headphones, so that's good enough,
And I'm
right?
wearing a blue baseball cap.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
We've got it covered. We Dino Thundered our outfits.
Okay. Now we're jumping ahead many seasons on this one, but no. On today's episode, we're doing Different Drum, Food Fight, and Big Sisters. So we're just gonna hop right on into it with everyone's favorite segment, in my mind. It's the quick run through of Different Drum. And we begin at the youth center as Kim is teaching a dance class. Billy and Ernie looking like fools, dancing around, and Billy goes for a ride. And then, of course, gets really maybe bad advice from Kim. Depends. Back at class, one student is having issues. We learn the student is deaf, and Kim is very well versed in sign language. Rita wants a musical monster, and Finster tries talking her out of it. Bulk and Skull arrive at the youth center, and they talk down about the ballerinas. Bulk takes a shot at Jason, but Zach pulls some dance moves that ultimately embarrasses Bulk when he tries them. And Skull looks embarrassed to be Bulk's friend. We've all had that moment several times. Finster creates a new monster and is sent down to the youth center. The monster entrances 4 of the girls from dance class. However, the deaf student is unaffected and follows them anyways. Then she returns to the youth center to tell Jason what is wrong. But a nice little shindig this monster holds, though, and now it's bedtime. The Rangers arrive with the deaf student and then morph into action. Straight to the power blaster, and it's game over? Question mark? Nope. Rita makes him grow. Never mind. And it's sword time. The Rangers save the day and rescue the girls. And oh, by the way, we now finally learn at the end of the freaking episode that the deaf girl's name is Melissa. And that's Different Drum. And that clocked in, and this is something we started the last episode with Ben. This episode clocked in at 20 minutes and 9 seconds. We're now bumping up the time to at the end of the quick run through, because sometimes people like to talk about how far into the episode they are. So we might as well tell you right away how long the episode is.
That's fair. My first note is 90s exercise tape nightmare. And that's because, or I guess cliche rather than nightmare, because that's kind of how the episode starts. It's Kimberly doing the stereotypical 90s exercise tapes. And it kind of reminds me of like episode 1 a little bit, where Billy is having trouble with the physical aspect of karate. Except here, instead of karate, it's jazzercise or what, dancercise. And Kim, one of the best parts about this episode is Melissa. I think she's charming. I think she's sweet. I think it's cool. And it's also noted that like Kim actually failed to give her directions that she needed in sign language for what to do. So Melissa didn't get lost because Melissa can't follow the music.
Yeah.
So kudos for not completely terrible deaf representation, except you forgot to name her until the end of the episode. But
like, yeah, I mean, I definitely think they did the deaf person representation really well. I liked how, when Melissa is running back to the youth center and she gets to the juice bar and she's trying to tell Ernie and Jason what's wrong, and they don't obviously understand sign language, and like she has to write down on the thing like what's wrong, and she gives it to Jason. It's like, okay, let's go, as soon as she writes it down. Like,
and what's interesting is that she goes to Jason, but like did they clarify in the episode, I don't remember if they did or not, how the Power Rangers find out about what happened, because secret identity?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think she goes to Jason automatically because she knows Melissa.
She's at the juice bar.
Well, she's at the juice bar, but I think it's also maybe pre-established off camera that Melissa knows that Jason is a good friend of Kim's. So Melissa knows that she can go to Jason because she is seeing Jason hang out with Kim all the time.
That's fair.
And I think that's
does kind of help that he was the only one at the juice bar.
Yeah. So you have that, and then you have, and I think the fact that they ran to find Kimberly, because that was the thing. It's like, oh, right, let's go find the others, as in like, let's find Kimberly and the others that can help out, who could try to help with this.
Right, but how do we go from the Kimberly and her friend Jason to the Power Rangers? Oh no, wait, I do remember. They basically Melissa leads the Rangers unmorphed into the cave, and then they tell her to run and hide.
Up to the cave,
to the cave, right? And then Kimberly tells her to run and hide, and then the Power Rangers appear. I'm gonna guess that Melissa probably figured it out, because for all of their schlock about protecting the Ranger identity, it becomes really obvious when they do things like this.
Oh no, the greatest one, and it's like much later in the season, you have one where they get out of detention and in the middle of the hallway, really loudly yells, "It's morphin' time!" And I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure Bulk and Skull and Miss Appleby and possibly even Mr. Kaplan heard you say that right outside the door of the classroom.
So my guess is the teachers probably knew, because come on, the kids disappear, the Rangers appear, it's not rocket science. But I bet you anything, there's a secret pact amongst the teachers of Angel Grove to just not question it and let it go. Bulk and Skull definitely don't know, because they don't technically find out who the Power Rangers are until Countdown to Destruction.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious because they really should have figured it out.
Yeah, and when we get to In Space and we get to that season finale, there's a really great discussion that we're going to have about Bulk and Skull and learning of identities. Because there's a really good conversation that we're all going to have about that.
This is true, and it is going to be glorious. The monster was kind of forgettable this episode. But I like the fact that Melissa seemed to have like girls who were slightly antagonistic towards her because they didn't understand. But then they all just kind of became friends really instantly, while also making fun of Billy, which was a little, yeah.
Well, I think what it was
unintentionally, but
I think what it was is that, especially for the girl, well, it was really one girl who was antagonist towards Melissa. And I think what it really came down to is that I think when they saw Kim sit down with Melissa and doing the sign language between the two, and the fact that Kimberly is actually also speaking loudly, so maybe others can hear her saying what she's saying to Melissa, they probably overheard that and go, you know what? Teacher's fault, mistakes happen, and the girl apologized to Melissa, and that is a cat butt right there in the camera for those who can't see.
Who cannot see, my furry feline friend, Mr. Darcy. Yes, it has to be pronounced exactly like that, Mr. Darcy. Fitzwilliam Darcy has decided that he doesn't actually care about Power Rangers. He just wants pets. So as he wanders around the basement wondering what to do and what the heck I'm doing here. But yeah, I think this episode is important because it's not strictly a PSA episode with the same attitude of like, we need to help people, Rangers. It's more akin to like, it's more akin to like the Marvel level of storytelling where you care about what's happening in the story and you learn from the story as opposed to getting a lesson of the week.
Yeah. Which
we know Power Rangers does a lot. So it was actually very natural, in my opinion, to do it like this because it created a really good story. And unfortunately, I do not believe we ever see Melissa again.
You don't see any of the 5 girls ever again.
Never again. But it would have been so cool to have her as a reoccurring character.
Which is really funny. And I got to hop to IMDb real quick. No, not that one. hit the wrong movie app on my phone. Because one of the most interesting things that I actually learned about this episode was about some of the other girls in the episode and what they what they went on to do. And where's Different Drum? There it is. Oh my God.
Did they actually go on to have careers?
So it's very interesting. So okay, so the one girl's name is Beth. That was the one that kind of picked on Melissa in the beginning and then made up for her. She has gone on to do Days of Our Lives. Okay, yeah, so she only did like a few things.
Okay, so not exactly a career to write home about.
Yeah, not her, but hold on. Or unless it was another episode. It might have been another episode because I was looking at it and I was like, man, that's so crazy. Yeah, it's another episode. Because I was looking at the cast and it was like, one of the episodes was like, you look at who was in there, like who they used, and then they went on to do like all these other shows and movies and stuff. And they ended up having like actually pretty decent careers. And they were extras, essentially. They were given like one-off roles in Power Rangers. It was really cool. But when we get there, we'll get there. It might have been the Evil Rangers thing. Possibly.
Oh no. Oh, maybe. That would make sense.
But anyways, Different Drum, since I was talking about IMDb, got a 6.7 out of 10.
I'd say that's pretty fair. It's a definite filler episode in the sense that, like, it doesn't really advance character development for anybody unless you count Jason kind of deciding sort of to, like, go on to learn sign language. But that's not the point of the episode. I think the point of the episode is to give a little bit of attention to the deaf community.
Yeah.
So.
And it did its job.
It did.
Next up, we have Food Fight, which is possibly one of the most popular episodes to ever come out. And we'll talk about that after I do everyone's favorite segment in my mind, the quick run through of Food Fight. At the Youth Center, we see an international food festival being prepared. Mr. Kaplan's being a cheap man. He wants the food, but he don't want to pay for it. Rita's not feeling well, and the Rangers are now giving out food. Bulk and Skull and friends start a food fight. Finster creates Pudgy Pig, and it starts eating everything. Meanwhile, back at the food fight, chaos is still ensuing, and it ends in dramatic fashion. Then Zordon pages them to come to the command center and briefs the Rangers, and they morph into action. They face off with Pudgy Pig, and he eats their weapons, and Finster is now getting really cocky. And then transport the Rangers to the park. After that, Pudgy gorges out at the food festival, but they notice the pig avoided the spicy food. At the palace, Finster is hiding from Rita on purpose, but then the Rangers morph back in action with a plan in place. The spicy radish damages Pudgy, and the Rangers get their weapons back. Power Blaster time, and it's game over, and Finster making excuses. Back at the Youth Center, the Rangers are dismayed about the food festival. However, Alpha sends them some food, and Mr. Kaplan finally pays for some food, and he got the spicy sandwich because karma always comes for you when you're trying to be cheap. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Food Fight, which clocked in at 20 minutes and 13 seconds.
I have major issues with this episode for a couple of reasons. The Cultural Food Fair apparently does not understand the cornerstone of American cuisine being like steak and beans or apple pie. It has to be burgers and hot dogs, first of all. Second of all, this is a cultural fair that dubbed literally everything as Asian. Asian is not a country. It is not a singular culture. It is hundreds upon hundreds of different cultures and peoples and cuisines. Like, come on. Like, yes, there are some common elements between different countries and different cuisines in the area. But you can't really tell me that, let's say, like Indian cuisine is the same thing as Japanese cuisine. It's not. Right? So I have a problem with that. Also, Ernie is wearing Hawaii gear, which was kind of interesting. And this is a charity thing, which is really important because they were trying to raise money for a playground and something else.
Yeah, it was a playground.
If I had a nickel for every time Rita had a headache, I'd have a pretty hefty sum of money. I feel like that should be somebody's catchphrase at the end of an episode. I have a headache. And it's because it just comes up so often. You know, Rita's creativity is very much lacking. And also, the hula dance was terribly choreographed. I'm going to say it right there. It was terribly choreographed. They need to rewatch Lilo and Stitch and then re-record this episode.
Many years later, hey, we're going to re-release this episode.
That's a they problem. That's not a me problem. I'm just pointing out general ignorance. Also, Hawaii is a separate culture, yes, but it is technically within the United States. So instead of having USA, Asian, Hawaii, like they could have just selected 5 or 6 different things. Like American could have been one, like old-fashioned American, you know. Then you could have done Hawaii. You could have done, let's say, Thailand or China. You could have done...
If I remember right, they did Jamaica.
Yeah, seriously. What the heck? I'm very, very... I think they also had, like, France as a sign somewhere, but, like, what the heck? This is a very racist cultural fair. Albeit more than likely unintentional, but that does not help them.
Good old-fashioned 90s racism.
Jeez Louise. I'm glad I didn't speak English when I first watched this episode. Just saying, because I wouldn't have gotten that.
Well, I mean, we also established in the season premiere that, you know, I mean, look at the Ranger colors and look who the Rangers are wearing those colors. It's like...
I mean, that was something that was unintentional and arguably, I mean... You know, people wear different color clothing. That's just life. But fair. Let's talk about Kaplan's toupee. It's a reoccurring theme. Kaplan's toupee could be its own separate character on the show.
Unlike Bulk and Skull's friends.
Who?
Exactly. Because they disappear after this episode.
So it should be noted that Pudgy Pig apparently is going to eat everything in sight and will consume all food within 48 hours. Like, all food, like, in the world or in Angel Grove?
World.
I have a hard time seeing that. My suspense of disbelief does not believe that this pig monster will eat all of the world's food supply in 48 hours. I just don't. You also have to factor in travel time. Unless Rita just keeps teleporting him from Angel Grove to the next city to the next city. To be honest, it's like Rita wants to be defeated. It's like someone long ago told her that, Rita, your job one day will be to conquer the earth. But Mommy, I don't want to conquer the earth. Too bad, you have to do it.
and then fail miserably at it.
I mean, yeah. Finster seemed had way too much faith in his monster, just way too much.
You know, and it's really interesting because with Pudgy Pig, let's be honest, Pudgy Pig has become, when you think about Power Ranger monsters, everyone thinks about Pudgy Pig, and one of the interesting things is, and Ben and I talked about this in the previous episode, is that originally that was supposed to be King Sphinx. That was supposed to be like one of the big marquee monsters, and that was because King Sphinx was shown in all of the marketing, and he actually was one of the first monsters to actually get merchandise. And then Pudgy Pig came around, and it just the pig exploded, man. You know, it just in popularity. You know, it's so crazy how that works sometimes.
Lesson of the week, children, is sometimes you can never predict what children will find amazing. In this case, it's an obnoxious pig.
Yep.
Also, it should be noted, Italy was listed as a continent. You're not Italian. Why are you wolfless?
I don't know. I don't know.
Also, it should be noted that Bulk and Skull actually stood up to the monster.
This is true, yeah. Bulk and Skull, like, Bulk didn't want to give up his sandwich to Pudgy Pig, and Zach's like, no, bro. You got to give it up. It's the only way it's not going to go attack you, you know? It's like, it was one of those really cool moments with Bulk. And it also showed, it like, yeah, okay, Bulk and Skull, they started the food fight and stuff like that, you know, being the bullies that they are. But, like, that was a cool moment where, like, Zach's like, no, dude, I'm trying to save your life. Give the pig the sandwich.
Yeah, right. But then, so they fight the monster, and then maybe it's the time of the world that we live in, but as soon as they fed the monster spicy food and it puked up their weapons, my first thought was, oh my god, please disinfect those before using. Like,
if this was done during COVID-19.
Oh gosh. But I guess Alpha saves the day, and everything's great. It's fine. This episode is funny in a sad, semi-racist sort of way. But Pudgy Pig is, first of all, they reused the monster costume later on in the season.
Yep, and I believe they reuse them again in season 2 for something.
Hey, if you got the suit, you got it.
Well, not just that. If it's popular, go for it. You know.
Yeah, this will not be the only suit that is reused in Power Ranger history. But yeah, it's kind of a weird episode, but I'm still nagging on this very poorly put together cultural festival. Also, $20 for a dish is obnoxious.
But hey, man, it's all about that playground.
No, I get it, but is like every dish $20? Because like they could have had like range of pricing. That like this was not a well thought out cultural fair.
I think what it was is that like it's one of those things where it's like maybe like $20 per person, all you can eat type deal.
That defeats the purpose of purchasing the food by itself.
I don't know. They were never clear about it. I don't care. It was from 1993. Anyways, this episode gets an IMDb score of a 7.3 out of 10.
It's just because of Pudgy Pig, isn't it?
Probably.
Now, I don't believe this episode deserves that rating. I will fight anybody on it, but Pudgy Pig was fun.
Yes. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be doing our last episode real quick. So it's everyone's favorite segment. One more time, in my mind, it's the quick run-through of Big Sisters, which starts off better than Unlike Different Drum, because at the youth center, Kim and Trini are looking for Maria. Who's Maria? We'll tell you in a sec. And we see a bunch of men running wearing towels because Maria turned off the hot water. That's so mean. Maria's a little punk, you know? Rita needs a child so she can access a chest. Fister creates a chicken monster. So when I think about kidnapping children, I think chicken monsters. At the park, Kim and Trini are at the park with Maria for a picnic. And don't worry, there's no Yogi Berra Boo Boo to steal those picnic baskets. But then putties attack, and Maria is kidnapped. Back at the youth center, Kim and Trini inform the others Maria got kidnapped, and the communicators are down. Billy unveils the Rad Bug. So we get the Rad Bug now. And they take off to the command center. Zordon briefs the Rangers on the power eggs, and after driving around, they find Goldar, Squat, and Babu, and they morph into action. And Rita is flying on a bicycle. At a warehouse, we see Maria hanging with the chicken monster about to cut the rope. Rangers call on their Zords. They form the Megazord, and they save Maria just in time. And they call upon the Rad Pug, and they tell Maria to get inside of it for safety. Because when I think safety, I think I'm going to go in a car that has nobody there driving it to get me the safety.
Do not diss the car.
You know what I'm getting at, though. They fight the chicken monster, and they finish the fight with the power sword. And then back at the youth center, the Rangers are talked about on the news. you see Maria talk about the Rangers on the TV, and then Bulk gets chili on him by accident. And a legitimate accident at that, because Kim did not mean to actually spill the chili on Bulk, so this is not a bullying moment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Big Sisters, which clocked in at 1856. Don't you love it when they introduce a character, they actually give the character a name at the very beginning of the episode and not do it at the very end of the freaking episode when you're about to roll credits?
Why was Rita riding a bicycle? I mean, I get it. It was kind of like a Wicked Witch of the West kind of a moment, but why?
Well, that footage was from Sentai, and I think that was her method of traveling from the palace to Earth. Because
I can just see her riding a bicycle across space from the moon all the way to Earth. Okay, fine. But this is one of the few in the Sentai moments that I will do, because I do not watch the Sentai. But something that I noticed is in the scene where Maria is falling, it's not the kid we saw. It's the actual kid from the Sentai, who's a very cute girl, who's probably grew up to be a very successful young woman, I hope. But you actually can tell that it's not the same child.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but, you know, speaking of the Sentai, I think they actually had to ask Toei to send them pictures, like actual, like behind the scenes pictures of the actual outfit that the child was wearing in that episode.
Oh yeah, that's obvious, especially because like the child they have in the actual episode looks absolutely uncomfortable in this outfit. To be honest, I'm gonna say this. They either got a boy to play a girl, or what is her name? Maria is a transgender girl, which, first of all, if that's the case, kudos for 1990s unintentional transgender representation, but whatever. But it's just kind of funny to me, because it's just, she looks so out of place. And that's because,
and then add on the fact that it's not her actual voice, it's a dub over.
Yeah. This is not the first time that children will be dubbed over by adults. I don't understand the need for this. Obviously not all child actors are going to be phenomenal Emmy nominees or anything like that, but it's so out of place, and you can tell it's an adult voicing a child. The voices don't match. Maybe Maria had too deep of a voice. I don't know.
Or maybe they told her to just speak the lines, but they'll just take it out in ADR.
Right, but I don't know. I feel bad for this kid. I don't.
Well, it's not just her.
I know it's not, but
because it happened a few episodes before with Willie. You know, the kid who did the VR with Billy for that one episode. He was also dubbed. Next. Yeah, he was dubbed over. Is that the next one? Oh yeah, that's the next.
It is. Yeah.
We'll talk about that next episode. So yeah, William gets dubbed over.
No, with William it was a little less noticeable, but again, there's no reason to do it unless Bandai and Saban was scraping the bottom of the barrel of child actors. Which, again, Power Rangers is still in infancy at this point, so it's possible, but it's so cringy. But it had some nice moments, besides the fact that Maria is a very strange child. She's kind of a troublemaker, and we get to see Billy's flying car, which was nice, and it has an autopilot feature. Kudos, Billy. That's brilliant.
And one of the things is, and this is where Ben would not say that's not how science works, because Billy made the science actually work, because he states that with the Radbug, it's based off of Zord technology for the Radbug. Because remember, the communicators, the risk communicators, are based off of the command center technology, whereas the Radbug is based off of Zord technology.
Yeah, Billy should be in college by now. That's the summary of that.
Why isn't he in MIT already? Or why hasn't he graduated MIT?
Seriously, though. Or, since it's California, Stanford or something. But anyway, there's there's something that was weird. There was a mention of Morphin Master's mystic power eggs. I think that was the point of what they were after, these mystic power eggs.
And they never
What were these eggs? What will these eggs? I'm sure we'll find out somewhere between now and, oh yeah, never.
Watch the Sentai if you want to know about the eggs. Because actually the interesting thing is that in the actual Sentai, it is actually a long-running storyline in the Sentai. It's multiple episodes about the eggs.
Yeah, good for them. They didn't bother to care that much. They defeat the monster, and there's a media report that specifically mentions Rita by name. So, how do they know Rita's name? Because unless did she make some grandeur announcement that I'm Rita Repulsa and I'm here to take over the Earth?
So that's a very interesting thing to say. Now, I know in the Sentai how she appears for the very first time. You know how you see the thing where her palace is on top of a building on Earth? That's actually that's the very first episode of Zyuranger. And she actually gets out on her balcony and introduces herself as Witch Bandora, which is her name in the Sentai, to the citizens of Earth, and pretty much say, you could either kneel to me, or I'm just going to take over and wipe you out.
That would have been so much cooler than what we got.
You pick what you want to do. But the thing is, though, is that obviously we didn't get that. But one thing that could be noted is that, being how Maria is interviewed for this news segment on TV, maybe she heard the Rangers the fact that she was with Rita. Keep that in mind. She technically was with Rita. Oh, that's right.
So Maria's actually useful and is not just there to be a damsel in distress. She tells the world, and by world I mean Angel Grove, because the rest of the world doesn't care that there's a giant person there's this evil witch trying to take over the world. Just Angel Grove is now aware of the existence of Rita Repulsa. So that's a good point. I will give you that.
Yeah, so it's when you think about it, it's she was with Rita. So
I like Billy's car. That's the best part of the episode.
And the fact that they took an old school VW Beetle.
Yep.
So with that, this episode clocked in with a 6.4 out of 10 on the IMDb ratings scale. You're just like, okay, yeah, okay, cool. That's about right. Episodes suck, but yeah, okay, we'll go with that.
I think if this episode had panned out to something, it would have deserved a higher score, but it doesn't deserve a particularly high score. It doesn't. Maria, there's some nice moments of the girls talking to Maria about boys, which was just, again, so funny if this is just a boy that was hired to play a girl. But yeah, this was an episode that happened in Power Rangers.
Yep.
Still not the strangest thing to happen in Power Rangers, but there it is.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was Different Drum, Food Fight, and Big Sisters. Sasha, where can the people find you on the social medias? So where can they find you on social medias?
And you can find me at geekgirl101.tumblr.com, Geeky Captain on Instagram, and of course on my awesome website, geekycaptainwrites.wordpress.com, where I write comic book reviews and cry in a corner.
And you can find me on the Twitters.
How about you, Michael?
About to say that. You can find me on the Twitters at @thelindenbaum75, Facebook at facebook.com/x75productions, and of course everything at txhdhockey.com. For the show specifically, /VFTG, which is the call letters for Voices from the Grid. And of course, lots of hockey coverage happening right now because the playoffs are underway. So, with that said, Sasha, take us out.
We thank thee for joining us and wish you as always, may the Schwartz be with you.
And until our next episode, grab your morphers and may the power protect you.
Ah, yeah, yeah,